these storefronts, these crypto exchanges, crypto lending platforms, crypto staking as a service, they need to come into compliance, and they are generally non-compliant right now. The investing public is not only at risk by the speculative nature of crypto, but they're at risk of ending up in line in a bankruptcy court because a lot of these platforms are doing things they're not disclosing.
When it comes to crypto regulation, the US is still in the Stone Age compared to the rest of the world. But what's up with that? Why are we so slow to catch up when other countries make it seem so easy? Let's find out, and thanks for watching.
Now, there's a ton of disagreement around staking. Crypto holders stake some of their assets in order to secure a network like Ethereum. The SEC has sued crypto exchange Kraken for its staking service, accusing it of offering illegal, unregistered securities with advertised investment returns as high as 21%. Now, the SEC has alleged that Kraken didn't give investors the right disclosures. Kraken didn't admit or deny wrongdoing, though it had agreed to settle for $30 million and also stopped its staking service. But even within the SEC, there's disagreement. Commissioner Hester Peirce said that there are dissents. She dissents to the agency's actions, and that the SEC registration process makes it difficult for crypto offerings to make crypto more available to customers. Staking, however, is a big deal for crypto networks like Ethereum, and it's also a big deal for rival exchanges. For example, Coinbase CEO has been getting increasing revenue at Coinbase from its subscriptions and services unit, which includes staking. Brian Armstrong argues now that the firm's staking services are not securities and that his team would defend the issue in court if needed. His top lawyer has even said the SEC has made misinformed assertions about the business of staking. The staking issue is just one of many being raised by the SEC. Days after the Kraken case, stablecoin issuer Paxos had responded to a fresh issue. Paxos says it received a Wells notice from the SEC and that the agency is considering bringing on an action alleging that one of its most popular stablecoins is a security. Now, Paxos is already stopping the issuance of the BUSD stablecoin as a top New York regulator ordered it to, because much of the unresolved issues with its relationship to the exchange counterparty Binance. Now, Paxos offers other large stablecoins, and while it reached a resolution with New York's regulator, there is still tension with the SEC. Paxos said it would vigorously litigate if necessary, and it disagrees with the SEC in that the BUSD stablecoin is a security under U.S. laws. So whether it's staking, the listing of popular stablecoins, or the long-standing fight to turn certain investment vehicles into ETFs, the pending lawsuits are building. The industry is paying millions of dollars to lawyers who are gearing up for a huge fight against the SEC's actions. And hanging in the balance are billions worth of investments at stake.
With U.S. regulation so strict toward crypto exchanges, the real victims end up being U.S. customers.
Billions at stake and potentially taking the U.S. out of the global digital asset conversation. At least that's the view of Michael Shaloff, co-founder and CEO of crypto custody firm Fireblocks. Michael joins us now here on set in New York. Michael, thanks so much for coming on the program. Great to have you here. What's your take on Gary Gensler's ruling, or his intent with the settlement with Kraken?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first and foremost, we're seeing all those regulatory actions, right, being taken against some of the more prominent players in the U.S. market. And in some regards, it basically drives the investors and it drives the public from operating in the U.S. market and drives them outside, right? Basically, offshore entities. But as we've seen already with FTX, those entities are less secure, or they are less basically susceptible to U.S. regulators enforcing consumer protections.
Doesn't it make sense, though, that staking as a service, especially offered by an exchange, that seems like a security?
I think it's difficult to basically assess what exactly it is, right? And if we will take a step back, I think that in many regards, we sort of operating from a rule book that is suited for horses, and now we have cars, right? And we basically need to change the rule book because, staking in some regards is sort of like installing solar panels and contribute electricity to the grid and then getting something in return. And I'm not sure if it's exactly a security or not, right? I think there should be certain protections, right? There should be certain disclosures. Now, the main issue is that the U.S. regulators are not progressing fast enough and providing the guidance to the industry of how exactly we should deliver those services, unlike regulators abroad that are actually moving in a very rapid pace in terms of providing guidance and regulatory clarity on what each one of those activities actually means and how we should protect consumers.
How big of a deal of this is this for Ethereum in particular, given the move to the proof-of-stake model? Does it significantly impact the ability for it to scale when so many exchanges are facing this threat of the SEC?
It's a good question, but I think that overall, as we've seen in crypto for the last couple of years, right, it's a very global system, right? So if something is actually banned in China or something is actually banned in the United States, the activity very quickly moves to different jurisdictions, right? When there is clarity, it's allowed. So maybe there is a temporary setback for the stability, which I'm not sure is actually, we are seeing it right now, but I'm pretty confident that if this stability is actually exists, it will basically be rebalanced offshore in some jurisdictions like Europe, APAC, where this activity is clear and it's allowed.
I guess one other question I have is how much does it matter that Gary Gensler is coming down so hard? You mentioned it, you're not sure if it's staking is a security or not, but Gary Gensler is pretty clear when he says that it is. We're going to watch these legal battles start to play out, but that will take a long time. Do you think that the companies that are operating the space have enough dry powder to make it through that time onto the other end of this fight where they may or may not win?
Look, I think that overall, the losers in this fight is, first of all, the American public and the American economy, right? Because all those companies and all those investors eventually has the opportunity to go and operate in jurisdictions like Singapore, like Australia, like Europe, like APAC, like the UAE, and they're all basically pushing ahead with providing a pretty warm regulatory infrastructure, right, for those companies to operate, right? Effectively, what it does, it sets the U.S. infrastructure for this transformational wave of using digital assets, of using the crypto rails. It's setting it back, right? Because companies will operate abroad.
Well, but what's the alternative, especially after the collapse of FTX and Voyager and Genesis and you name it? I mean, investors are getting burned left and right, and not just for a few $100,000 or a few million, or it's like billions of dollars that are just being eviscerated. Yeah. So we can't just set up a friendly regulatory structure and continue to see these kind of losses.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm advocating for not doing anything or for a friendly, over-friendly regulatory structure. Right? I think that what needs to happen is basically not to basically structure everything as a security, right? There are two frameworks, right? Some frameworks, as we've seen in Singapore and Australia, right, where there is one government agency that basically takes ownership. They learn the topic, they engage with the industry, they decide what are the appropriate consumer protection measures, and they basically move forward with them. There is another model, for example, in the UAE, which they actually set up a dedicated agency that regulates crypto, right? And I think both of those models work, right? What is happening right now is sort of unclear, and it seems to be much more political, right, and an aftermath that instead of constructive measures.
Clearly, it is, and it's great to get your take. Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Michael Shalov there of Fireblocks, telling us how he thinks we should work it out in this country.
Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.